Hello friends, welcome to Buried Truths, where the dust of time is swept away and history's deepest secrets rise to the surface. Let's view the video. Robert the Bruce, the warrior king who defeated England and freed Scotland, is the story of a nation's desperate fight for freedom. It is a tale of betrayal, rebellion, and redemption. Before Bruce rose to become Scotland's saviour, the Ettarc land was torn by civil strife and dominated by foreign power. This chapter unveils the chaos that set the stage for his legendary rise. In 1286, the sudden death of King Alexander III threw Scotland into a succession crisis. With no clear male heir, the kingdom was left vulnerable, leading to political instability and the looming threat of foreign intervention. The fragile unity of Scottish clans began to unravel under the weight of uncertainty. To resolve the dispute, Scottish nobles invited King Edward I of England to arbitrate, but instead of acting as a neutral judge, Edward exploited the opportunity to assert his overlordship over Scotland. In 1292, he imposed John Balliol as a puppet king and tightened his grip on the nation. Resentment grew quickly, sparking widespread rebellion. William Wallace emerged as a defiant leader, scoring a major victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297. But his triumph was short-lived. The English crushed Scottish forces at Falkirk in 1298, and Wallace was eventually captured and brutally executed in 1305. During this time, many Scottish nobles, including Robert the Bruce, initially sided with Edward I for political survival. Bruce was a powerful noble with ambitions of his own. He held ancestral claims to the Scottish throne, but bided his time while watching England and Scotland tear each other apart. The internal power struggle came to a head in 1306, when Bruce confronted his main rival John Comyn at the church of the Greyfriars in Dumfries. In a dramatic moment, Bruce stabbed Comyn at the altar, sealing his fate. This act shocked the nation and made Bruce both an outlaw and a contender for kingship. This murder transformed Bruce from cautious noble to desperate revolutionary. Hunted by Edward I, excommunicated by the church and shunned by many, he now stood alone. But it was this moment of darkness that would ignite a new chapter in Scotland's quest for independence, led by a man who had everything to lose. After the shocking murder of John Comyn in 1306, Robert the Bruce had no way back. With the church condemning him and England branding him a traitor, Bruce made the boldest move of his life. This chapter captures the moment he seized the Scottish crown amidst chaos and committed himself to a war for national freedom. Just 7 weeks after killing Comyn, Bruce was crowned King of Scots at Scone Abbey on March 25, 1306. It was a rushed ceremony under tense circumstances, with few noble supporters and limited ceremonial regalia. Yet it was a defiant message to England. Scotland had chosen its king. Pope Clement V, influenced by Edward I, excommunicated Bruce for his crime. This religious condemnation meant Bruce was not only an outlaw, but spiritually damned in the eyes of the church. It also gave Edward further justification to crush Bruce's rebellion without remorse or negotiation. Bruce's early reign was disastrous. In June 1306, his small army was defeated at the Battle of Methven by English forces led by Aymer de Valence. The ambush was brutal, and Bruce narrowly escaped. Soon after, he suffered another crushing loss at Dalry, where his forces were scattered. Forced into hiding, Bruce vanished into the harsh Highlands and Western Isles. His enemies believed he was finished. Yet legends speak of his endurance, most famously the tale of a cave where Bruce watched a spider persistently spin its web. Inspired by its determination, he resolved to fight on. Meanwhile, Edward I unleashed vengeance. He captured and executed Bruce's brothers and imprisoned his wife and daughter. Yet these atrocities failed to break Bruce's resolve. He slowly rebuilt support among Highland clans, who remained loyal to Scotland's independence cause. Bruce returned to the mainland. In early 1307, launching small raids against English outposts. His guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, and deep knowledge of Scotland's rugged terrain made him a growing threat once more. He was no longer just a fugitive, he was a warrior king on the rise. Despite setbacks and isolation, Robert the Bruce never yielded. His coronation, though shrouded in crisis, became the symbolic beginning of Scotland's second war for freedom. The man, once dismissed as reckless, now carried the weight of a nation on his shoulders, and he would not let it fall. Robert the Bruce, once defeated and hunted, now began a relentless campaign to win back his kingdom. Emerging from the shadows, he led a small band of loyal warriors in a war of attrition. This chapter marks the turning point, where Bruce evolved from fugitive to Scotland's unstoppable liberator. In April 1307, Bruce struck back with a stunning victory at Glen Trool. Though small in scale, the ambush proved his guerrilla tactics could outmatch English forces in Scotland's rugged terrain. The English, unfamiliar with the landscape, were harassed and pushed back by Bruce's highly mobile troops. A month later, Bruce's forces triumphed at the Battle of Loudoun Hill. There, he used clever positioning and schiltron formations to trap and decimate the English cavalry. This was his first major battlefield success, and cemented his military leadership in the eyes of skeptical Scots. The tide further turned in July 1307, when Edward the Fern, Bruce's fiercest enemy, died on his way to Scotland. His successor, Edward II, lacked the same resolve and strategic brilliance. Bruce exploited this shift in leadership, pushing aggressively into English-held territory. Bruce began systematically retaking Scottish castles, using a scorched earth approach. If a castle couldn't be held, he destroyed it to prevent English reoccupation. This tactic frustrated the English and forced them into costly defensive campaigns rather than offensive ones. The personal cost remained immense. Bruce's brothers had been executed, and his wife and daughter were still captives. Yet despite grief, he remained focused. His key ally, James the Black Douglas, launched fearsome raids, helping reclaim towns and strike fear into English loyalists. By 1310, Bruce had recaptured significant parts of Scotland. His cause now attracted more support, and wavering nobles returned to his banner. With his strength growing, Bruce transformed the conflict into a national movement. Scotland no longer viewed him as a rebel, but as a king fighting for independence. The redemptive journey of Robert the Bruce was built on strategy, sacrifice, and resilience. Every skirmish won, every castle burned, was a step toward liberation. The land that once doubted him was beginning to believe again, and Bruce was preparing for the greatest test yet. In 1314, after years of rebellion, guerrilla warfare, and gradual victories, Robert the Bruce faced the ultimate challenge, a full-scale English invasion. Near the village of Bannockburn, Bruce and his vastly outnumbered army confronted the might of Edward II's forces. What followed became Scotland's most legendary military victory. The battle was triggered by a siege at Stirling Castle, still held by the English. Bruce's brother, Edward Bruce, had besieged the garrison, which agreed to surrender if not relieved by midsummer. This compelled Edward II to march north with a massive army, nearly 20,000 strong, to save it. Bruce had only around 6,000 men, mostly infantry, but he chose the battlefield wisely, positioning his forces near the Bannockburn, a narrow stream surrounded by marshy ground. The terrain would nullify the English cavalry's advantage and channel them into tighter formations. On June 23rd, the first day of battle, Bruce famously encountered English knight Henry de Bohun. In single combat, Bruce split Bohun's skull with an axe, inspiring his troops and unnerving the enemy. It was a symbolic moment, Scotland's king fearlessly confronting English nobility. On June 24th, the main battle began. Bruce's schiltron formations, tight circles of spearmen, held firm against repeated English cavalry charges. The marshy ground trapped English knights, while Scottish forces moved with precision and coordination. Edward's army began to collapse under the pressure. As panic spread, many English troops were driven into the burn or trampled in retreat. Edward II fled the field, leaving behind thousands of dead and captured soldiers. It was a humiliating defeat that shattered English morale and cemented Bruce's reputation as a military genius. Bannockburn was more than a victory. It was a national awakening. Scotland, long oppressed and doubted, had defied the odds and crushed one of Europe's most powerful armies. For Bruce, it was the crowning moment of his military career and a defining milestone in Scotland's fight for freedom. Though Bannockburn was a monumental triumph, it did not end the war. England still refused to recognize Scottish independence, and Robert the Bruce knew that holding the crown meant continuing the fight. This chapter follows Bruce's long and arduous campaign to fully secure Scotland's freedom and unity. After Bannockburn, Bruce turned to consolidating his control over Scotland. Many castles remained in English hands or held by rival Scottish nobles. Bruce systematically besieged or destroyed them to eliminate all remaining opposition. His approach was ruthless but necessary to ensure lasting sovereignty. Edward II, though humiliated, refused to accept defeat. Sporadic invasions continued, but Bruce's forces used superior knowledge of the land and guerrilla tactics to repel them. Border raids into northern England became common, both as retaliation and to pressure Edward into negotiations. In 1315, Bruce launched a bold campaign into Ireland, aiming to create a second front against England and weaken their grip on the region. His brother Edward Bruce was crowned High King of Ireland. Though initially successful, the campaign ended in failure and Edward's death in 1318. Internally, Bruce worked to unite Scotland's often fractured nobility. He redistributed lands confiscated from English supporters to loyal followers. This not only rewarded loyalty but secured future allegiance. Bruce was shaping not just a victory, but a stable, independent kingdom. The Church had long condemned Bruce for killing Comyn, but in 1317, Pope John XXIII began softening his stance, influenced by Bruce's growing popularity and diplomatic outreach. Slowly, Scotland gained international sympathy, further isolating Edward II's position in Europe. By the early 1320s, Bruce's power was undeniable. He led repeated campaigns into England, forcing Edward to the negotiating table. Yet England still refused to formally recognize Bruce as king. The war continued in the shadows, through raids, alliances, and politics. Victory at Bannockburn had given Bruce a crown, but not yet peace. He knew that true freedom required more than battlefield triumphs. It needed political recognition, unity, and enduring resistance. The long war dragged on, but Scotland's resolve, under Bruce, remained unshaken. After years of relentless warfare, political maneuvering, and diplomatic efforts, Robert the Bruce's quest for Scottish independence was nearing fruition. This chapter explores how Bruce secured formal recognition of Scotland's sovereignty and ended decades of English domination. By the early 1320s, Bruce's military campaigns had severely weakened English control in Scotland. English morale was low, and Edward II's reign was marked by internal struggles and dissatisfaction among his nobles. Meanwhile, Bruce's position grew stronger, both at home and abroad. In 1320, the Scottish nobles sent the Declaration of Arbroath to Pope John XXIII. This powerful letter asserted Scotland's status as an independent kingdom and emphasized that Bruce's kingship was legitimate and essential for the nation's freedom. The declaration remains one of history's most famous assertions of national sovereignty. Diplomatic pressure from Scotland and its allies eventually forced England to the negotiation table. Edward II, facing rebellion and political turmoil at home, was unable to continue costly campaigns in Scotland. His grip on power weakened further, setting the stage for a resolution. After years of conflict, the Treaty of Edinburgh-Northampton was signed in 1328. England officially recognized Robert the Bruce as the King of Scots and accepted Scotland's independence. This treaty marked the end of English attempts to dominate Scotland and secured Bruce's legacy as a nation builder. Robert the Bruce's victory was not just military but political. He had transformed Scotland into a recognized sovereign kingdom, respected across Europe. His resilience, strategy, and leadership forged a path for a free Scotland, inspiring future generations. Though he ruled only a few more years, Bruce spent his final days consolidating peace and strengthening the Scottish crown. He worked to rebuild the war-torn country and secure the future for his people before passing away in 1329. The final victory was a testament to perseverance against overwhelming odds. Robert the Bruce had achieved what many thought impossible. He freed Scotland from foreign rule and earned his place in history as the warrior king who changed a nation's destiny. Robert the Bruce's life and reign left an indelible mark on Scotland's history. His journey from exiled nobleman to revered king embodies the spirit of resistance, resilience, and national pride. This chapter explores how his legacy shaped Scotland and inspired generations. Bruce's victory secured Scotland's independence for centuries. His reign established the foundation of a sovereign Scottish state, free from English rule. The political and military structures he strengthened endured, allowing Scotland to develop a unique identity and governance. His leadership style, marked by strategic brilliance and personal courage, became legendary. Tales of his guerrilla warfare, battlefield heroics, and steadfastness spread across Scotland and beyond. These stories fueled national pride and helped unite a once fragmented kingdom. Bruce's life inspired countless Scottish patriots, poets, and artists. He became a symbol of defiance against oppression and a model of rightful kingship. His famous oath before battle, pledging to liberate Scotland, echoed through Scottish folklore and literature for generations. Internationally, Bruce's success influenced other nationalist movements by demonstrating that determined resistance could topple powerful empires. His diplomacy with the Church and European monarchs also helped position Scotland as a respected independent kingdom in medieval Europe. Though Bruce died relatively young in 1329, his vision lived on. His descendants continued to rule Scotland, and his legacy was commemorated in monuments, songs, and historical chronicles. Today, he remains one of Scotland's most beloved and iconic heroes. Robert the Bruce's story reminds us that courage, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment can change history. His legacy is not just in battles won, but in the spirit of a nation he helped forge. One proud, free, and enduring through centuries of challenge. If you're passionate about uncovering the forgotten stories of our past, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying the journey so far. And stay tuned because there's so much more history waiting to be unearthed, right here on Buried Truths.